Hey guys, this is Anan, and today I have some gameplay on the PZ4S, also known as the TIE Fighter from the limited edition legendary camo. I know it seems like kind of an odd time to do this video because it was a limited tank and it came out a while ago, but I figured I'm not the only one that kind of skipped over it when it first came out. I bought it, played some games in it, and just kind of put it on the shelf and didn't really think about it until I started playing Tier 6 again a little bit more frequently with the 1-1 matchmaking, and kind of just completely fell in love with this tank. So I just finished my 100 games in it, and I have to say it is really, really spectacular as long as you play it the right way. The gun on this tank is quite simply completely overpowered at Tier 6. I mean, it has to be one of the most overpowered guns for its tier across the game, at least in my opinion. It's absolutely like shooting laser beams. It's incredibly accurate, fast aim time, great DPM, so you just need to worry about kind of map placements and location and just handling engagements the right way. The hull on this is so weak. Everything is going to pen you, so you don't want to be brawling. It's not the most mobile tank ever, although it can move from location to location pretty quick. So you really just need to be that second line tank or sniper and utilize the fantastic gun that it has. So obviously on port bay here, and I did my normal thing going across the river, hoping to snipe across because it does have some nice turret armor, being more that tier 7-ish turret. But since they weren't there, I came moving in. Normally I would have stayed on the left side, but when I saw the A20 pop up who was fail tuning, I decided to turn this direction and ram him just to make sure he didn't run away from us later. It just didn't really make sense to let him die, or to stay alive, so instead I'm popping up and instantly putting this gun to work. This is exactly the kind of situation this tank sings in. It's not very big, so it's easy to kind of peek-a-boom and take these shots, and it's just not going to miss very many of them. You can just pop out and completely rip apart tanks with kind of absurd speed because of this fantastic quick load on it. So just kind of paying peek-a-boom here, like I said, and it's also nice because you start to frustrate enemies that aren't as familiar with this tank. I mean, that KV-1S was just getting ripped apart, finally took a shot from the side and just decided to turn away from me because he wasn't doing anything. And instead now I can turn on the T-150 and, I mean, just evaporate these hit points. I mean, it takes no time at all as long as you're being careful and not taking unnecessary shots. You can just pick your targets smartly and rip through them. Also with the quick load, it's fantastic for auto or perma tracking tanks. So anytime you have a clean opportunity to shoot at drive wheels, I love to do it. But in general, this tank, it just builds up the damage so quick. It's tier 6, and in my 100 games I had, I don't know, probably at least 4 or 5 4,000 damage games in this tank. You can still carry in it because it racks up that damage, although it's not necessarily the best in late game situations against higher tier tanks because it is so weak. But it does have the nice turret armor, which lets you kind of work with that a little bit. So you can see how quick I'm reloading, especially now on adrenaline. He probably has a repair kit because he's healing that drive wheel so fast, but it just doesn't matter. He sits in the open long enough that you're able to just completely rip apart those hit points. So I'm not talking a lot about what I'm doing here because it's a pretty straightforward game. It was, like I said, it was a lot about myself getting in good position and just kind of staying on the outreaches and letting the heavy tanks do their jobs of absorbing shots. And so instead I can just kind of work through the map in that secondary layer and farm damage, which is, like I said, really the job of this tank. So as with pretty much any of them, if you get some nice angle, you can still get some bounces, especially off that front plate. It is a lower tier hull, so it's not something you want to depend on. And you can even see here, like, it's got enough mobility to still work around the battlefield. I mean, you can get into I don't know what the top speed is on it, but you can cruise in the 40s pretty easily. And you can see there where I'm starting to get some bounces off the lower tier guns and same tier guns that once you're angled and not aiming well, you can get through them pretty quick, although that was clearly not a heavily aimed player. It's more of an example of what you can do from kind of that second layer of tanks and letting yourself really rip through the red team. Alright, I'm going to move on to a little bit different look here, in more of a way to kind of use the great DPM and a gun with really fantastic accuracy, or guns that you're just not going to miss a lot, to bully with them a little bit. It's the guns that fire so fast and start to rip apart enemies. It makes them nervous a lot of the time. So once you can land 2 or 3 shots in quick succession where they've maybe shot you once or missed, it tends to make them panic and make mistakes. And if you can use that to your advantage, especially to then take the offensive, it can have some great results, which is what kind of happens in this battle. So get the quick shot on the Jumbo as he peers out, but I want to back up because frequently in a situation like this, he's got a couple teammates supporting, and that's why I kind of pushed off the that Leo a little bit. Get a nice shot in on not a high... about a high frequency shot that you're going to get there with a lot of the red. And the APCR on this tank is really good, so I should have switched for the more guaranteed shot, but luckily didn't need it. The other thing that's really great about this, I mean, just the dispersion in general is fantastic, but you can see how that bloom is really pretty small on the move too. I mean, it just shocks me how good this gun is for the tier, and that's why I enjoy driving it so much. It also earns really nice credits, which you probably saw at the end of that last battle screen. So for tier 6, I mean, it's not that far off the victory if you have a good game, and grinding at tier 6 is obviously nice. So, like I said, I instantly, when I turned that corner, I ran into 2 more tanks, and now that I've put shots into both of them, I'm pushing through. The T-34 was coming at me, but I'm just going to go straight at them because I know with the DPM and the fact that I'd already gotten them low, and also this great dispersion on the move, that I can really take them one at a time instead of ending up in this weird triangle situation, which could have happened. So I were able to kill those 2 tanks and now turn back to the T-34 85 that was starting to come up behind me, but has gotten distracted. And again, you can see just how fast this gun can really evaporate hit points. So every single kind of enemy is then propelling me to the next enemy, which is something I talk about a lot. I instead of getting myself caught in this weird triangle of 3 red tanks, I worked through them in more of a triangle fashion to make sure I'm always working on that next tank. So instead I can pop up here and start to help my teammates. I put one on the VK, but then I rotate to the lower KV1, and that's mostly just to help my teammates because he's a bigger threat to those guys sitting there, especially the one that's just shooting HE. A little bit of troll there, but which happens obviously with any tank. Unfortunately, the bloom isn't completely non-existent, but again can just kind of work through these tanks really quickly. So a little bit different video today. But this is a tank I've been wanting to address for a while. This isn't even necessarily my best 2 games. I stopped recording games in this tank because it seemed like I was just getting aces too often and didn't care anymore. So hopefully you grab this tank when you had a chance, and this can reinvigorate your desire to go play a little bit.